Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of 99 or Bust. We're going to jump right into it today for you guys. We'll be talking about Wheel of Misfortune. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read the entire card. I'm just going to paraphrase what it does just to make it easier on everyone. If you really want to read it, it's going to be right here on the screen, as always. Let's get started. So, Wheel of Misfortune is a 2 and a red sorcery. Basically, this is what it does. You cast it. Each player picks a number and then every player reveals that number they have chosen. Now, this is where it gets fun and tricky. The player with the highest number takes damage. I don't remember exactly how much damage, but it says here that player takes damage. Don't remember exactly how much. And then the player with the lowest number does not discard their hand and draw cards. But the players in the middle, they discard their hand and draw 7. So it's a worse Wheel of Fortune. Or is it? Let's get right into everything. Just like we normally do here on 99 or Bust, we're going to be talking about the floor versus the ceiling. And like always, guys, let's go ahead and start with the ceiling. Or the floor. Yeah, we start on the floor. We're going to start with the floor of the card, where it's kind of at its worst. At its worst, it's not Wheel of Fortune. It's not a Windfall. It's not a Reforge the Soul. It's also not a, Winds of Change. The list goes on. It's not that great of a wheel card if you're just using it to wheel. Now, that being said, it's just not that great of a wheel card. I don't think it's designed to be just a strict wheel. I think players are kind of looking at it kind of wrong in that aspect. Is there, if hey, this is basically a reprint of, or a pseudo reprint of Wheel of Fortune. It's really not. It's something completely different, completely new, something they're trying to take red in those interesting directions with playing around with random numbers and really going into the chaos part of red. So it's not there to replace your wheel effects. As much as you want it to, it's not going to do that. That's where I think its floor lies, is that at its best, it's the worst. It's a bad version of, Windfall. At its worst, it's a bad version of Windfall. It does refill up to 7, but it's all by chance. You got to make sure you're not picking the highest number, you're not picking the lowest number, and you're in that sweet spot. So it's that's where it's at. You got to find that sweet spot and pick that number that is going to get you those cards if you really need those cards. Some people are going to pick the lowest number because they don't want to pitch their hand, so that's where it's kind of interesting. Let's get into the ceiling of the card. So at its best is I think it really works good in discard decks. Not necessarily in a wheel deck, but decks that really care about your opponent's discarding cards are you discarding cards. Because you can force, you can figure out the number you want to pick to get the best outcome for yourself. It's a budget card. It's fairly well priced for the effect. But it just brings that kind of chaos and that randomness. And I just think that the whole, forcing your opponents to have to think, that's where I think this card really excels, is because you can just pick your number, and you're just going to run with it. But it's forcing your opponents to be like, okay, do I want to discard my hand or do I want to draw 7 cards? Players who are on the back foot, who are less than 7, are typically going to try to shoot for that middle. And that's cool for you because, especially if you're playing more of a discard deck, a deck that you're running, Waste Not in, or as well as there's the creature version of Waste Not that helps you, that whenever you discard cards, you do stuff. I'm going to put the creatures on the screen here because I don't remember their names. There's a red creature that does something very similar that came in the Jeskai Precon. It's a dinosaur. Again, it's going on the screen. They all have effects that whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land, you do this. Whenever you discard a creature, you do this. Whenever you discard a land, you do this. And it's all just kind of accrue you some pretty cool value. So in decks that want to discard those cards and stuff like that, I think this is where this card goes in. Decks that really care about the discard outlets, having that way to just like feed off of opponents discarding and you discarding. That's where I think these cards go really well in. So let's get into it. Is it a 99 or is it a bust? I think it's a 99. I think it's a really cool card. It's fairly cheap for what it does. At its worst, it's just, a bad Wheel of Fortune, and Wheel of Fortune's amazing. Let's all admit that. So that's my thoughts on the matter. Tell me guys what you think in the comments section below. As always, new videos coming out every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And always guys, play more games.